Good evening. Welcome to Living Room Talk, some thoughts on issues and events that you might be thinking about too. My name is John Graham, adventure activist, former diplomat. More at johngraham.org and in a memoir, Sit Down Young Stranger on Amazon. Tonight's topic, Rethinking the Police in America. As you know, the former Minneapolis police officer who killed George Floyd was convicted of 2 counts of murder and 1 count of manslaughter. Since then, there's been nonstop coverage and analysis of the trial. Many people feared that the killer would get off because history shows it's extremely difficult to get a murder conviction of a police officer. Juries give cops enormous latitude, and if that wasn't enough, in many cases, key facts are omitted, evidence disappears, reports are twisted, and the blue wall of silence descends. It takes a very brave cop to leap that wall and tell the truth about a law-breaking colleague. In the Minneapolis case, however, there was a videotape of the murder from start to finish, and the killer's conduct was so clearly wrong that even his fellow officers condemned it in court. The great majority of Americans applauded the verdict, including many police officers and officials from all over the country. But at the same time, many people seem to miss the crucial, broader perspective, seem to see this trial only as the bringing to justice of one arrogant, cruel man who thought he could get away with murdering a helpless, unarmed black man and then hide behind his badge. But the killing and the trial were about way more than justice coming down on one cop, one rotten apple in the barrel. The national conversation that needs to happen now, and is beginning to happen, is about the rotten barrel. It's about a system of policing in this country that permits and even encourages police officers to use violence, too often lethal violence, too often against blacks, to respond to situations that could be effectively and peacefully handled by other means, including by unarmed professional civilians. The problem is a system in which a black man risks his life if he just walks outside at night, or reaches into his car's glove compartment for a license and registration. The problem is a system that allows police to break into black people's homes and shoot them in their beds, that allows police to shoot a child if they're frightened by his toy gun, that treats wearing a hoodie as evidence of guilt. Let me be clear. I think that the vast majority of police officers are doing a hard and dangerous job with honor, intelligence, and courage. My concern is about the system that hires, trains, and equips them, and sets the rules for their conduct. That system needs to be rethought and repurposed. State and local jurisdictions across the country have taken up the issue of police reform, as has the U.S. Congress. And the outline of what needs to be done is becoming clear. Repurposing the police means hiring, training, and equipping them to be agents not for antagonizing or terrorizing communities, but for providing protection, stability, and support. That means demilitarizing police forces. Portland is not Fallujah, and police in armored Humvees and Darth Vader battle armor should not be deployed in our cities and towns. Repurposing means community policing, with cops walking beats again, talking to people, learning who they are and what their lives are about, building trust. You can't do that from inside a patrol car. It means not forcing police into situations for which they haven't been trained. And instead it means tasking appropriate social workers, psychologists, other unarmed professionals to take the lead in responding to many 911 calls, like mental health crises, domestic violence, drug overdoses. Repurposing the police means significantly changing the way police officers are trained. By all means, continue to train them to deal effectively with truly violent situations and people. But stop recruiting and training them as if they were combat soldiers going into a war zone, instead of becoming defenders of the peace in a community. Spend more time training young officers in skills such as conflict resolution, communication, critical thinking, and problem solving. Teach new officers the history and social situations of the communities in which they'll serve. There need to be significant shifts in police tactics so that violence is the last and not the first resort. This means banning chokeholds and no-knock warrants, and ending or at least severely restricting the use of tools like tear gas and stun grenades against peaceful protesters. Police need to be more accountable for their behavior. No more qualified immunity. That legal provision gives them far too much protection from responsibility for their actions. In practice, this means they can use lethal force with impunity, no matter how unnecessary or unwise such force might be, so long as they feel they're in danger. Qualified immunity means they know diminish the power of police unions, which today can overrule elected officials, quashing any criticisms of police conduct or the firing of bad cops. The police unions are a major factor in rotting the barrel. The George Floyd murder and trial showed white America, a white police officer murdering a black American. It was far from the first time this has happened. But this time the whole world saw it happen. This time it wasn't just words on the news. This time a powerful, persistent movement kept the pressure on. This time white America couldn't look away. To quote a recent op-ed in the New York Times that I think nails it, justice is not a system where the Derek Chauvins of the world are punished, but instead a world where doing what Derek Chauvin did is unthinkable. Justice is not a system where the man who killed George Floyd gets punished. It's a system where George Floyd is still alive because the police did their job and didn't kill a man during an arrest. Basically, the question should not be, how do we punish the man who killed George Floyd? It should be, how do we make sure nothing like this ever happens again? That's it for now. Thanks for watching. Please share this message widely.